All right, everyone, let's dive into something really cool today. We're talking about a groundbreaking new framework from Microsoft's AI team called Agent Lightning. And trust me, it's poised to completely shake up how AI agents learn and get better at what they do.
So, Agent Lightning was born from a really fundamental and honestly frustrating question. Right now, if you want to make an AI agent smarter, you often have to tear the whole thing down and start from scratch. But what if you didn't have to? What if you could teach it on the job without that incredibly painful process? That's the exact puzzle we're going to unpack.
Here's our game plan. First, we'll set the stage with the core problem everyone's facing. Then, we'll introduce Agent Lightning as the big solution. After that, we'll get into the weeds of its no-rewrite architecture, see how it actually learns, and finally, zoom out to see what this means for the future of AI.
Okay, let's get right into it. Section 1, the agent learning problem. This is all about the painful, frustrating cycle that developers have been trapped in for a while now.
You know, the old way of doing things is just rough. A team will build and deploy an agent, but then they have to manually sift through mountains of error logs just to figure out what went wrong. And the fix? It's almost never simple. It usually means re-engineering the entire system, deploying it all over again, and just hoping for the best before the cycle starts right back up.
And I want to be crystal clear here. We are not talking about small, simple tweaks. The fundamental challenge is that any real, meaningful improvement forces a complete, super expensive, and time-sucking system rewrite. This has been a massive bottleneck, slowing down innovation across the board.
And that, of course, brings us to the hero of our story today, Agent Lightning. It's designed specifically to be a no-rewrite solution that finally breaks that painful cycle.
So, what is Agent Lightning? Well, at its core, it's an open-source framework from Microsoft. It gives any, and I mean any, AI agent the ability to learn from its own experiences using something called reinforcement learning. Think of it like giving a dog a treat for doing a trick correctly. But here's the absolute magic key. It does all of this without forcing developers to scrap their existing code and start over.
The promises here are huge. You can connect it to your existing agents with practically zero changes to your code. It's built to play nice with all the popular frameworks you're probably already using, like LangChain and AutoGen. And this is all possible because of its core philosophy. It separates the act of learning from the act of doing. It even lets you get super specific and train just one agent in a whole team of agents. Okay, so this no-rewrite thing sounds amazing, right? But how in the world does it actually work? Let's pull back the curtain on its architecture to see how it separates the learning from the doing. This quote right here really is the heart of the entire innovation. It separates training from execution. That's not just a cool feature, it's a completely different way of thinking about how we improve these AI systems.
So, how does this separation actually happen? It's through a clever setup called training agent disaggregation. The easiest way to think about it is like a fitness tracker and a personal coach. The Lightning client is the fitness tracker. It runs right alongside your agent in its natural environment, just capturing everything it does, prompts, tool calls, you name it. Then it streams all that data to the Lightning server, which is the personal coach. The server looks at all the data, figures out what works and what doesn't, and then creates a better, smarter model, a new workout plan, and serves it right back. And the whole system is super flexible. If you've got a big, complex production environment, it can plug right into standard data pipelines using OpenTelemetry. But if you just want something simple and quick, it has its own lightweight tracer built right in. Either way, you get the same result. All that valuable experience data gets where it needs to go. Okay, so we've collected all this raw data from the agent's day at work. But how do a bunch of messy action logs actually turn into real learning? That is where the magic of a component called Lightning RL comes into play. Let's be honest, an agent's real-world activity is complex and messy. It's not a clean, neat line. So, Lightning RL acts as a kind of universal translator. It takes all that noisy, chaotic data and perfectly restructures it into a clean, simple format that standard reinforcement learning algorithms can actually understand. A beautiful sequence of prompt, response, and reward. So here's how it pulls it off, step by step. First, it captures every single thing the agent does. Then, it organizes all those actions into those neat prompt, response, reward groups. Now, for really long tasks with lots of steps, it cleverly figures out which specific actions led to the final success or failure. And finally, all of this clean, organized data gets fed into standard learning algorithms to forge a newer,
better, more optimized agent. And here is another really clever feature. You see, with long, complicated tasks, it's hard for an agent to learn if it only gets feedback, a reward at the very, very end. Agent Lightning solves this with something called automatic intermediate rewarding. It basically gives the agent little digital breadcrumbs, small rewards along the way, which makes the entire learning process way more efficient.
Now, this all sounds fantastic in theory, but the big question is, does it actually work in the real world? Let's take a look at the results and what this could mean for the future.
The team at Microsoft didn't mess around. They really put Agent Lightning through its paces. They took a pretty small model, Llama 3.23b, and threw a bunch of tough tasks at it. It successfully boosted the performance of agents built with LangChain for database queries, with the OpenAI Agents SDK for huge-scale information retrieval, and even with AutoGen for solving tricky math problems. This just goes to show how incredibly versatile and effective this thing actually is.
So what's the big takeaway here? What does this all mean? Well, Agent Lightning is a truly practical bridge that finally connects the incredibly powerful world of reinforcement learning with the day-to-day reality of building AI agents. This means agents that are already out there, in production, can start learning continuously. They can get smarter over time on their own. This makes this powerful training tech accessible to way more developers, which is ultimately going to accelerate the creation of more capable and adaptive AI for all of us.
And that leaves us with one last mind-bending question. For the very first time, we have a practical, accessible way for almost any AI agent to learn directly from its own experience. The question is no longer if they can learn. It's what incredible new abilities will they unlock now that they finally can. Thanks for joining me.